little, my mom had hoped that I would be super girly, and little did she know, for a short time, that's how I was. Although at some point, I began to stray away from that and more towards dragons, dinosaurs. As time went on, this didn't go away. I became more in awe of them, drawn by the diversity of each species, but as I dove further into this world of magic and mysteries, I found something truly amazing. Dragons weren't the only creatures out there. There were so many more that held their own truths about us, whether it be greed or love, even at times death. It's often become apparent that these mythical creatures are not real and do not hold any power in today's world, although some of these creatures were based on pre-existing ones. One example of this is the Kraken. The Kraken was fabled to be far too powerful for any boat or ship to overcome. Though these things do not exist, why is it that tales stretch far and wide about the sightings of the beast? I myself can only come to one conclusion: the animals that are living among us in the ocean. If both the giant squid and colossal squid have been perceived as much larger than they are, they could have been created into the tale that is the Kraken. The similarities between these creatures leave the question: why make something like the Kraken up? Was it to show the sailors' greatness that they escaped the grasp of a wretched beast? Or something different? Maybe a warning. But often it's hard to figure out whether this is the truth or just another lie to improve one's standing. Another example of a creature coming from perceiving the past and present creatures differently is the griffin. These creatures were said to be extremely strong, let's say stronger than 10 lions. They had the back, legs, tail, and body of a lion, while the talons, head, and wings of an eagle. How might one come out with this outrageous creature? Well, it's believed that people may have come upon a fossil of a prehistoric creature, and over time, as the misunderstandings grew, so did its name. And these creatures, although they don't truly exist among us, can aid us as we develop further throughout life, whether showing us that greed can lead to our own demise or otherwise. I'm sure many people haven't heard about different stories or different creatures, but to ensure that my belief was right, I sent a survey to my school. The data that was gathered astonished me. Out of the 438 people, I had 71 teachers respond, people who've had more experience in life and dove further into this. The three most well-known creatures were dragons, unicorns, and werewolves. These creatures are openly televised rather often in shows like Harry Potter or Goosebumps. But compared to creatures like chimeras, a combination of multiple animals into one, it may take hours of searching to find the original story. Many of these creatures are only seen at face value and not the underlying facts that people leave untouched. Take the banshee, for example. Often, people use the remark, "scream like a banshee," but no one realizes that they would also sing to people that they loved in hopes of comforting them before they died. Each of these stories holds truths and warnings that we don't always take seriously. Every story is different, but shares some similarities to our lives. One example of this is the story of Gaia. And though many of you may not know this story, it can greatly relate to our lives. Gaia and Uranus had many children, which Uranus was unhappy with, so he buried them deep within Earth, also being Gaia's bowels. She spoke to one of the Titans named Kronos, saying that he should overthrow Uranus and free her children. After he succeeded and had children of his own, Gaia and Uranus warned him that one of his children would betray him. Hearing this, he decided to eat each and every child that he had. Little did he know, the mother of the children would hide the youngest in secret, and he would eventually be able to overthrow Kronos with the help of Uranus and Gaia. He would be later known as Zeus. The two warned him against betrayal and did something one may regret. With one truth, they had another lie. If in the present life we were told a lie that ruined our lives, hopefully it did not lead us to eat our children, we wouldn't be able to come back from that. We wouldn't be able to complete the goals and wishes that we want to fulfill in the short time that we have to live in the long run. These creatures may not truly exist, but the effects their stories have are still extremely relevant. If you take my life, for example, and I'm sure many of yours, we were always taught as kids to not go up to strangers, not to speak to them. But I think it doesn't always register in such a young child's age that going up to random people is bad. Although, in many different places, rather than just outright telling kids going up to strangers is bad, they come up with stories or different ways to deter them. One example of this is Miso, a creature with frightening eyes that warns children about the dangers of talking to strangers by luring them with candy and toys. These things that are appealing to children and make them disregard any warnings presented to them by their parents. I mean, like, who wouldn't disregard anything their parents said when they were little to go something like this? If we as children weren't told that speaking to strangers was bad, many unspeakable things could have happened to us. But one way or another, we were warned, and we should listen. Each of these stories holds imprinted warnings that if we look close enough and realize the intent behind them, we can not only help ourselves, but others as well. These stories are presented in our lives, as well as the cultures they come from, without them being full-ized really. Although I've only been alive for 14 years myself, the stories and life lessons I have learned from reading the different books and stories that originate from these myths and legends astounds me, but it's not the same for everyone. As I said, few people knew about the Chimera, or most of the others I mentioned. If we're left unaware of these, will we miss things? There are so many other examples I could use, but if we want to make a difference in any way, we need to know what has already happened or been experienced by those that are older than us, who've made those mistakes. We often speak about fixing climate change and the impacts that humans have on Earth. Well, many creatures are thought of to reside in forests to prevent children from wandering into them. But what if they also wanted us to realize that these environments are fundamental to the survival of not only humans, but the creatures that inhabit them? If someone were to pay attention to not only the things around us, but the things that make them act and react, these myths and legends can help us in so many ways. We just don't know it yet. As at times, we can be too naive or inexperienced with the ways of the world and how things function. We should look to the books that warn us of the mistakes that have been made and time again, that without us knowing personally due to the extreme gap in time between when they were created and the time we're living in now. We need to act on the things that we do know, that we can prevent and change through the knowledge others have gathered before us, when they pursue and conquer the trials and tribulations they were put through over and over. Thank you.